The train was already moving when Wendy realized it didn't belong to any railroad that still existed. Because the first sign wasn't the silence. You know, trains are never silent. But it was the wrong kind of sound. Instead of steel grinding against steel, the wheels whispered like something heavy sliding across polished bone. Outside, the windows, the Florida dusk stretched too long. The horizon, fixed as though painted onto the glass. She checked her phone. No signal, no clock. The time read nothing. That was when the conductor punched her ticket without asking where she'd boarded. Wendy remembered buying coffee at a station cafe she couldn't now name. A small place, fluorescent lights, the smell of burned sugar. She'd been tired after work, distracted, not even sure why she'd taken the train home instead of driving. And now she sat in car 3. The interior of the train looked decades old, but it was untouched by age. Dark velvet seats, brass luggage racks, polished to a mirrored sheen. Every passenger quiet, not reading, not scrolling, not sleeping, simply waiting. But waiting for what? The conductor moved on without footsteps, his shoes never quite meeting the carpet. He didn't look at faces. He didn't even blink. When he reached the door to the next car, he paused, then slowly slid it shut behind him and locked it. Wendy stood and tested it. There was no handle, and behind her, a voice said softly, "You shouldn't try to leave your car before your stop." She turned. A man sat alone across the aisle, early 30s maybe, pale but alive, unlike the others. He was fidgeting with a wedding band, rotating it endlessly. "Do you know where this train goes?" Wendy asked. He stared at her like she'd asked the one question he had attached had been avoided. "No one gets on knowing," he said, "and no one gets off early." The train began slowing. There was no station outside, only trees and twilight. Yet the brakes engaged. Wendy's stomach dropped, not from motion, but from certainty. A thought arrived fully formed in her mind, not imagined and not guessed. Remembered from the future. Someone in this car will die at the next stop. She didn't have a clue how she knew that, but she definitely knew who. Her eyes locked onto the man across from her. He swallowed.
"Why are you looking at me that way?"
Wendy sat beside him without asking permission. "Listen to me and listen carefully," Wendy whispered. "When the doors open, do not step onto the platform." He laughed nervously. "There ain't even a platform to step out on." "There will be. And if you walk out there, you will not come back." The train shuddered to a halt. Lights flickered once, and then the windows changed. There, a station stood outside. Not modern, not abandoned, just out of time. Gas lamps burned along a narrow platform. A single bench, a sign with a town name blurred beyond reading, like letters refusing to hold still. The other passengers rose simultaneously, all of them, Every head turned toward the door. The man gripped his seat. But they're all getting off. They always do, Wendy said. How do you know? She didn't answer because she wasn't sure that she wanted to. The door slid open. Cold air poured inside, carrying the smell of wet iron and rain that hadn't fallen yet. Passengers filed out silently. None looked back. None spoke. But as each passed the man, they slowed, not visibly, but enough for him to feel noticed, measured, chosen. He stood involuntarily. Wendy grabbed his wrist. Sit down. I feel like I'm supposed to get off, he said, breathing faster. That's the point. He looked at her, eyes wide. If I don't, her voice tightened. Then you live. He froze. On the platform stood a figure under a lamp. No, not the conductor. He was taller, and he was waiting, facing directly toward their car. For him. The last passenger stepped out. The door remained open. The man began walking, not willingly, pulled, as if gravity had tilted toward the platform. Wendy stepped in front of him. Listen to me, she said sharply. You have 10 seconds before the train decides for you. Sit down and don't look at it. He shook. What is it? I don't know, she said truthfully, but I know the rule. The train gives you a chance to refuse. And if I don't refuse, her throat tightened. Then you become one of them. The figure on the platform lifted its hand. The man screamed and collapsed into his seat, covering his eyes. The door slammed shut instantly, and the train lurched forward. Outside, the station vanished in mid-motion like a film cut. The figure never moved again. So the car was no longer full. Half of the passengers were gone. The remaining ones had changed seats, now scattered, fewer, quieter. The man trembled. I felt it pulling me, he whispered, like stepping into traffic you can't see. Wendy nodded. Her heart pounded because something else had changed. The route map above the door. Before, it was blank. Now, its glowing letters formed a single stop ahead. Last transfer. The man noticed it too. What does that mean? Wendy's chest tightened. She suddenly understood why she knew he would die. Because she had taken his place. You're safe for now, Wendy said. For now? She looked toward the next car. The conductor stood there watching her. Not angry, damn sure not pleased. Acknowledging. You weren't supposed to interfere, he said calmly, though the distance between them was too far for sound. Yet she heard him clearly. Now the train will correct the manifest. The man grabbed her arm. What did he say? Wendy didn't answer immediately. She stared at the door between cars, the one that had been locked earlier, and it slowly unlocked. The lights dimmed to night. Outside the windows, no land at all. Only stars, but wrong stars, moving alongside the train like passengers keeping pace. The man's voice shook. We're not on Earth anymore, are we? Wendy exhaled. No, I think we're between stops that no longer exist. Why did you help me? She considered lying. Instead, she said, because I knew your death didn't belong to you yet. He frowned. Yet? The train collects unfinished endings. People who step off accept theirs early. And you? She watched the door. I just volunteered to negotiate. The handle turned by itself. The next car awaited, empty but not abandoned. A single seat at the far end, reserved for her. The conductor gestured her stop. The man grabbed her hand. "Don't go!" She smiled faintly. "If I don't, the train takes 2 lives instead of 1. What happens in there?" "I ask for your life back. And if they say no," she held his glades, "then you wake up tomorrow and never remember me." His eyes widened. That means, "Yes," she said gently. "It means I won't be the one leaving." Wendy walked into the next car. The door closed behind her. Instant darkness. Then a dim lantern ignited above the reserved seat. She sat. The train stopped. No brakes this time, just arrival. And across from her, someone now sat that she had not seen enter. Not human exactly, but wearing the memory of one. "Passenger reassignment noted," it said kindly. "Request?" Wendy asked. "State your argument." She swallowed. "He still has time left. I saw it." "You saw possibility, and it corrected. We harvest certainty." "Then take mine instead." The entity tilted its head. "You misunderstand. You already boarded." She stared. "But I never bought a ticket." "You thought you were going home," it said gently. "You boarded when you chose a path that you would not finish." Her breath caught. Memories flashed. The turn she almost took, the next text she never sent, the apology she delayed, the life she kept postponing. The train wasn't collecting victims. It was collecting unfinished lives. "Then give his back," she said quietly. "He chose to stay." Silence. The lantern flickered. The train waited. And finally, accepted. One departure reversed. One transfer completed. The door opened behind her. But the car beyond wasn't the train. It was daylight. A normal station. Cars passing. Phones ringing. Life was moving in all directions. She stood slowly. "Will he remember?" she asked. "No. Will I?" "Yes." She nodded once and stepped off. The man woke up in his seat as the train arrived at a modern station. Passengers chattered around him. Phones worked. Announcements played. No velvet seats. No conductor. Across the aisle was an empty seat where he felt someone had been sitting. He didn't know why, but he whispered, "Thank you." And miles away, Wendy stood outside a station cafe she didn't recognize, but somehow knew she'd never left. Traffic roared. Her phone displayed a normal time, and she watched another train pass. And for a moment, just one, she heard wheels whisper instead of crying. She didn't board, not anymore, because now she understood. The mysterious trains don't hunt the dying, they hunt the unfinished. And once you finally choose to live your life fully, they have no reason to carry you again.